The Titan, which is the first feature from a director called Leonard Ruff. And Ruff by name, and let's press on. This is a science fiction film set in the year 2048, with Earth becoming ever more uninhabitable because of various environmental and overpopulation-based catastrophes. So there's a Plan B needed, and Plan B comes in the shape of an evacuation mission to Titan, which is the largest moon of Saturn. Now, Titan is not the most hospitable place in the solar system, but Tom Wilkinson, a scientist, has a plan, and that is to effectively remodel human DNA, physical makeup, on a genetic level, on a physical level, so that humans are effectively become aliens well suited to living in Titan's hostile environment. And here he is giving the Dragon's Den style pitch for this plan.
There is one place that gives us hope. Titan, the largest moon of Saturn. The only other place in our solar system with an atmosphere. A primordial ecosystem, just like Earth, seconds before life was born. Liquid methane raining into huge oceans and lakes that we can't swim in, and an atmosphere rich in nitrogen that we can't breathe. Too cold to exist in, fiercely hostile to life as we know it. Beyond the reach of space science, but not modern genetics. No longer trying to reshape planets in our image, but evolving humanity into the stars. Imagine, with a few minor enhancements, you could breathe the air, swim in the waters, and survive the cold. What if Titan could become our home?
Just a few minor enhancements, sir. I'm just going to stick a tentacle on here, and I'm just going to... So basically, from that pitch, you can see exactly where the film wants to go and what direction it's going to head in. It gets there with absolutely no surprises along the way. There's this idea that a band of volunteers, amongst whom the kind of central figure is Sam Worthington's heroic Air Force pilot who's volunteered for this colonial mission off to Titan. They're all undergoing this gene therapy, this kind of treatment in a lab. And as you can kind of expect, the results become increasingly horrific. Bad motives bubble to the surface along the way. But the experiment has to press on regardless because the film wants to show you what's going on. And so there's this idea is borrowing. The film is sort of notionally body horror, so it owes a very big debt to David Cronenberg's The Fly. There's also elements of Prometheus in there, elements of Avatar that go beyond Sam Worthington's involvement. This idea of a human being transformed into another form of creature. Soylent Green as well is kind of bubbling away in there too. But the kind of fundamental trick, or one of the fundamental tricks that this film misses, is a film like The Fly is exciting and gripping because Jeff Goldblum's Seth Brundle has to transform, not just physically in that film, but his entire kind of way of being transforms. He is this kind of nerdy scientist who becomes this super potent, virile love god as a result of the experiment. And then, of course, other things happen. Sam Worthington's character in this starts out as this heroic Air Force pilot. And he just is that kind of stoic hero throughout, undergoing this therapy. He's good at fitness things. He becomes better at fitness things. He's good at swimming. He becomes better at swimming, blah, blah, blah. There's no kind of arc to the story whatsoever. It's just plateauing along until it reaches the end. And the way in which the plot is developed, and it's very difficult to articulate this without giving away spoilers, so forgive me if this sounds a bit vague, but the way in which the plot finds itself coming to the end, it's no longer clear whether the mission is a good idea or not. It's no longer clear why people are going on the mission in the first place. It's no longer clear who actually wants the mission to be gone through with or not. And part of the problem is that so many, I think the director, this being a first film, I mean, possibly this is the reason behind it, but the director doesn't seem to have a grip, not only on the story, but what any character actually, what their motives are, who they should be, what they're trying to achieve. Everyone is a kind of a muddle. And I think there's an awful lot of miscasting in this film. If you want to see performances that are not just bad acting, but are people fundamentally in the wrong roles, The Titan is a great example of this, because you have Agnes Dean, for example, playing who we're sort of told this character is a kind of a young hotshot geneticist who is basically Tom Wilkinson's sidekick in the lab. But she doesn't carry herself like that. She doesn't talk like that. She looks like a work experience person who's there, kind of dressed like a work experience person. buzzes around like a work experience person. And no one, I think, has sat down and had a conversation and said, who is this person? What is she there for? You know, what's making her tick? What's motivating her to be a part of this? And it basically applies across the entire board with this, with, I think, the exception of Tom Wilkinson, who is just playing sinister Tom Wilkinson.
Yeah.
He does fine. And the thing is, you can do sci-fi at a low budget, basically most of which takes place in one location very well. Alex Garland's Ex Machina is a perfect example of this. Basically 3 characters in a house in the woods, and it's juggling these enormous ideas. You know, the special effects in Ex Machina were not, you know, cities falling down on the scale of Rampage, but they were beautifully achieved. And in the Titan, the transformations as they go on, like, I don't want to give it away, but the kind of end product of this transformation sequence,
there may or may not be the appearance of Crichton from Red Dwarf, or
Well,
the
to me, it was Douglas from the Lurpak adverts. I mean, all that was missing was the trombone, you know, and that was it. But the problem is, by that point in the film, this kind of constant, you know, squeezing and moulding around of the plot to just, let's get this across the line, let's just get there by hook or by crook. You're so kind of disengaged that by the time this kind of, you know, transformed, supposedly, you know, Ubermensch style character strides onto the screen, you're just like, and that's it.
Yeah.
This is the reaction to that film can in fact be summed up with that noise.
I think so too. In fact, I remember there was a moment my wife just stood up and went, no. There was still about half an hour to go, and from that point we just laughed our way to the end, really.